Yes, folks, here it is, the big man himself, Serpentor and his Air Chariot from the G.I. Joe Classified series arrived on my doorstep today. I'm so very excited. It's time for an unboxing and review with MoDXtra games and collectibles, but I'm not going to rabbit on like usual because it's a big set, lots of ground to cover, and this will be a huge review if I rabbit on like normal, so let's crack on with it. Serpentor and his Air Chariot are a deluxe set, so they come in fancy packaging. We've got this like little slip-on sleeve thing here, and then the box itself. I've cut the tape for expediency for this video, but I've not had a peek at the inside just yet. Got this wonderful artwork on the front, shouty Serpentor, rallying the troops. We can see a few Vipers with their hands in the air there, doing the Cobra symbol thing, so that's all tremendous. Obviously it's got the cutaway so we can see the main box there. Let's have a look at the back. More tremendous Serpentor related artwork on the back, and it looks like, if I take a quick peek, yes, the artwork that's on the top of this cutaway sleeve section is on the underside of the box there. Serpentor, that's replicating the one on the front, sat on his Air Chariot throne on the Lincoln Memorial with his Vipers cheering. Having a bit of a Barney with Cobra Commander there, flying his Air Chariot around, commanding the troops, hanging out with the Baroness and Destro and some Cobra Troopers, and then like slicing himself up with a knife. That's a reference to something, but I can't remember what. But all really lovely. Great artwork. Painted artwork. Looks great. Legal bollocks across the bottom. That's my sticker, because it's import stock that I've bought. What's on the sides? Oh, he's got a data card here then. Okay, so that's like a load of stars, probably indicating like he's a gaffer. Then we've got a sword here, indicating he's got a sword. Then some dumbbells. Serpentor works out. And then we've got a little chess piece. Horsey there, so he obviously likes to play games. And he's number 57 in the line. That's exactly the same on the other side, but it's in a kind of lighter colour, so you can see it better on camera. So I'll do a quick peek at that. There we go. More legal bollocks on the bottom, and Cobra logos on the top. Right, let's get this bad boy open then. So we slide the sleeve off like that. Ooh, spoiler alert. Then we've got the kind of genetic cross swirly thing symbol on the front. I've forgotten what that's called now. Helix. With the Cobra symbols there, obviously referencing the fact that he's a genetic clone of all these nasty warrior dictator types through history. What else have we got here? And then on the back, yeah, it's just the continuation of that artwork, but you can see a bit more there with some ships and boats and planes and stuff across the bottom on Cobra Island, on Viper Island. Then we've got these two flap away sleeves. We've got this side here, which opens up, and we can see some of the figure pieces. Some artwork here with the Air Chariot. Then open up the other side, we can see Serpentor himself, and then in the other doorway here, there's his sword, there's his staff, and there's his little stabby snake that he likes to injure the likes of Duke with. So, right, let me get the knife back out. I'm going to have to do a little bit more slicing and dicing here. Right, okay then, I've cut away all the bits of tape here then. So if we open up the bottom there, we can slide out this tray with these accessories in. Then, so the Air Chariot's obviously in there somewhere. So let's do this side next. I'm going to slide that tray out there like that. Ooh, it's like a fun little puzzle. Ah, here we go. This is, there, that's the goer. This side here. So, here we are. Pop that open there and slide this out. Oh, now we get into the real goodies. Right, so Serpentor's in this little plastic tray thing here. Can I just yank that out? Does that work? Just to pull on it? Oh, I'm ripping the box at the back there. He's kind of attached to it. Well, that's weird. Right, conceptually, I do not understand what's happening there, but I'm just going to aggro it. Arise, Serpentor, arise. Right, I made a right mess of that. Don't mind me. So there's Serpentor out of there. Oh, there's all sorts of bits and bobs in here. All right, I'm going off camera for a minute because this is going to take forever. Ah, there's the paperwork. I knew I'd come across it eventually. More little compartments. There's a bag of goodies there. There's, another tray of things, but it's sort of strapped in. Oh, and instructions. Right, I'll keep the instructions. Oh, right, I had to do a bit more slicing to cut those tie wraps, but there's the base of the Air Chariot. All right, here's the top of it down here, look. All right, there we go. Cut that away. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. And then, oh, this section's wrapped in. Ugh. Another tray of bits here. More Air Chariot bits. Got the steering column that was strapped on the side. And a big old snake. Right, is that anything? No secret. There's no more secret compartments in there. Hey, you ever had such a complex unboxing? I should have raised my camera up a bit. Bit there, bit there, bit there. Oh, this isn't. This is definitely not a plastic-free piece, is it? Oh, sellotape! Ah, my nemesis. Let's take that big staff out. I love that. Can I just slide Snaky out? Can I pop you out without having to argue with the tape? Finger-biting action figure collectors, patent pending on the MoDXtra unboxing tool. Coming soon. Kickstarter near you. And there's the sword. All right, and then into the bag. Oh, that's taped down as well. Right, hang on. Oh, I've made a mess of this. I've just got too excited, aggressively excited, and just torn in like a psycho. Oh, right, we've got some more bits there. Claw. I felt something in my hand there. Oh, like a, what's that, like a magazine belt for the machine gun. There's one there as well. Anything else in that bag? No. Some barrels, and then a couple of guns that are sort of cardboarded, wrapped together. Bloody hell. Let me play with my Serpentor, man. Come on, Hasbro. And there we are. Oh, right, over the shoulder with that. And there we go, there's Serpentor with all his goodies. Jeez, that was a bit of a mission there, but I'm finally in. Okay, got the instructions out. Looks like that bit goes in there, like that. Does that have a nice little clunkety click? Yeah, that's nice. Got a couple of clips at the back there to hold it in place. Then it tells me that bit goes in there. Oh, another nice satisfying clunkety clip there. Get the taily bits on. Lovely. Right, and then what we got here? Right, so this is like kind of personal equipment stuff. And this is Air Chariot stuff. What have we got here? So, barrel. Oh, yeah. Bullet belt. Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, easy enough. It's that way around. Okay, cool. And bullet belt again. This is the way around. Oh, yeah. Nice bit of ordnance. And then that goes on there. And then that goes on that. Right then, and there we go. So there's one complete Air Chariot. Here's Serpentor. Bit blurry again, Serpentor, mate. Let's zoom you in. There you go. All his gear. So that's everything done. Don't need that anymore. So, as usual, I'm going to go away and have myself some playtime, pose him up, take some photos. Just generally do the MoDXtra man-child thing that I like to do. And then I'll be back in a couple of days to share my review thoughts. So stick around. For me, it's going to be a few days, but for you, it's just going to be 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm coming in from the bottom this time. Arise, Serpentor, arise. Normally I bring the figure in from the top of the screen, but no, not with this guy. We need the arise, the horizon. Anyway, you know what I mean. What's the word? Arise? In any case, here we go. It's been a couple of days since I recorded the unboxing section of the video that you've just watched. I've had some good quality man-child playtime with this guy and his Air Chariot, of course, and I'm back now ready to share some review thoughts for the figure. If you're a regular around these parts, you'll know that I have a review structure that I follow. I call the 3 A's, which is the aesthetic, the articulation, and then the added value or accessories, or both, depending on what's going on with the fig. But because of the Air Chariot and because of how some of the accessories influence articulation, it's going to be a little less structured, a bit more scattershot this time around with Serpentor. It's also running a long video. I noticed the unboxing section was longer than usual, obviously because of the Deluxe box and the Air Chariot and so on and so forth, and because of the Air Chariot being included in the review. I'm probably going to run long. I do very thorough reviews. If you're new around these parts, then you should know that. But what I will do is I'll pop timestamps down below. So if there's a particular element of this figure that you are thinking about and mulling over with regards to making a decision to pick one up for yourself, if you can find one, of course, then I'll put the timestamps in and you can jump forward to the bit that's relevant to you. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's talk about Serpentor. Now, aesthetically, this is an incredibly striking figure. I do not believe that there is any real estate on Serpentor that's not got some texture, some depth, some sculpting, paint application. You know, there is not a single millimeter on this figure that's not got something going on, which is fantastic, but also a little bit overwhelming in some respects, especially as a content creator who's looking over the figure with an eye to review it, you know, give it a thorough review. So I don't, you know, we'll be here for hours if I go through every little bit of fine detail that's caught my eye over the last couple of days as I've been playing around with him. But there's certainly some aspects that really stand out and give him an enormous amount of shelf presence, even when he's not stood on the Air Chariot, which is obviously an incredible amount of shelf presence in its own right. Certainly all the snake motif stuff that's going on with the figure, being Serpentor, of course, is really eye-catching, really stands out, and incredibly well put together by the G.I. Joe Classified team. The helmet, for example, you can see all the scaling detail in there, and it's on the back, sculpted all the way down, even into the section that you don't see under his cape. And while I'm on the cape, you can see that this is cloth goods with a serpent scale pattern within the cape as well, giving it lots of flavour, loads of personality, very appreciative of that. I'm not the biggest fan of cloth good capes, if I'm being perfectly honest, but this one is actually quite nicely put together. It's not wire-framed in, but the stitching is of a high quality, the design of the cape, you know, it's not just a random kind of piece of hobby cloth that they've draped on the back of the figure. You know, they put some thought into what it should look and feel like. The way it attaches to the figure means that it doesn't get in the way of articulation and falls, you know, drapes across his physique quite nicely, which I'm very appreciative of. Then loads more serpentine motif stuff. Obviously, he's covered in these green snakes. We've got a couple over the shoulder here, across the chest, across his belt. His gauntlets are snaky. And again, the scaling patterns nicely sculpted in, looking lovely. Lots of detail, lots of texture, giving him tons of depth. Look at that on the hand there, on the inside of the glove. Brilliant. And more down here on the legs. Look at the armor plating, the knee pads, the snakes that are wrapped around the top of his boot here too. Tremendous, like really, really great sculpting. Everything's got texture to it. And then all the gold armor sections. You've got two. You've got this kind of bright gold here, which is on his mask, his neck, his chest plate, across the torso there, covering his groin, and then on the front of his boots here. But then you've got the more dull kind of gold pattern here in these scales, all up the arms, all up the legs, all up the torso, just everywhere. There's not a single area of real estate on this figure isn't sculpted in some way to really add some shelf presence to him. The face sculpt as well, loving the face sculpt, up to the usual G.I. Joe Classified series standard. The facial features are all really well defined. We've got a bit of an expression going on here. There's this sort of really grim, menacing, evil kind of facial expression going on there, which I'm a big fan of. Loving the paint applications too. They're super neat and tidy. They always are with G.I. Joe Classified, but the eyes, the eyebrows, the lips, and of course the fact that the teeth on the helmet mask are painted in silver too are a lovely touch. They're super neat. There's no QC issues here with bits of blobby paint across his cheeks or anything. Very, very happy, very pleased with what I'm looking at here. Just tremendous. And just the little touches like, the eyes in the helmet are painted black. The eyes on the snakes over the shoulders here are painted black as well. Again, very neat and tidy. No QC issues there whatsoever. Just looking really, really lovely. And then just swinging it back around to the back, one other point I wanted to make with regards to the figure. This is just something, once again, about the G.I. Joe Classified series design team that I'm always very appreciative of. That attention to detail, the fact that the area under the cape is still just as well sculpted, with just as much detail, with just as much texture and depth in it as the front. So even though they know that in the vast majority of instances it's going to be very rare that someone's taking that cape off and this back is going to be visible, they've still taken the time to make sure that it looks good, that it feels good, and that it's adding to the overall action figure experience. And I appreciate that a great deal. So aesthetically, Serpentor is clearly shit hot. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He has an incredible amount of shelf presence, an incredible amount of sculpting detail. There's texture all over him. I'm just loving it. I can't gush enough about the aesthetic experience of this figure. He's suitably regal, but he's also suitably like evil and menacing and imposing and batshit crazy as well. I mean, let's call it out for what it is. This is an absolute one of the most idiosyncratic G.I. Joe characters that are out there, and this figure is just leaning right into those idiosyncrasies, and I absolutely love it to bits. The cloth goods cape, for a guy who's not a fan of cloth goods cape, is working for me. It looks wonderful. Look at how well it kind of falls and drapes across his figure there. Just loving it. I've got nothing but positive things to say about the way that Serpentor looks. He's just really great on the eye. He is absolutely bringing the Cobra section to my display to life in ways that I never imagined he would. So big thumbs up from Chris in terms of the figure aesthetic there. And of course, the Air Chariot adds so much more to the shelf presence and the aesthetic impact of the character, like a bazillion times more. It's incredible. To be blunt about it, let's call it out for what it is. This thing is fucking amazing. It's absolutely outstanding. Again, like cloth goods, I'm not the biggest fan of the vehicles. I know. I'm going to get my G.I. Joe Classified Series fan membership card taken off me, aren't I? I'll be like run out on a rail. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the vehicles. I was always into the idiosyncrasies of the characters, and I enjoyed the kind of comic book stories more from my Action Force reading days. So I'm not the most massive of fans of the vehicles, but this thing, I am absolutely blown away. The attention to detail continues on the Air Chariot. I mean, if we look again at the big serpent motif here at the front, we've got these little sections, these little touches, like the silver bits across the top there, the silver teeth, the black eyes, different bit of gold paint on these sort of techie circle sections here, the grills, the different shades of gold from the plastic sections to the painted sections, all give it a bit of variety, a bit of depth. Amazing. The detail on the guns and the cannons really add to the visual experience. Might have benefited from a little bit of a metallic wash across the massive machine guns there, but I can't have it all, can I? We've got loads of little decals as well, adding to the narrative, adding to the story. Caution, gun reactor. We've got this little code thing here on the engine on the top there, the Cobra symbol, but with the added little crown on it to indicate that it's Serpentor, the leader of the Cobras. We've got tons of other little touches as well that just really blow my mind. All these little extra vents that have been sculpted in, see that down there? We've got the rivets on the metal plates all over the place too, just really bringing it to life. If I go to the back of the chariot, for what is essentially an enormous piece of moulded plastic, they've made sure that we've got, again, all these extra visual touches, all the, again, the rivets and bolts on the metal plates. We've got little decals in here for dials and I don't know, like his air level and his GPS or whatever, you know what I mean? We've got the different paint application. It's a silver piece of plastic in the kind of air vent thing that helps it float. The foot panels here are textured and I've got a different vibe to it as well, but they look just like, an underfoot piece of grating that you'd put on a chariot of this nature to help the grip. It's awesome. It's really awesome. And underneath as well, again, this attention to detail, an area that is going to be very rarely seen when you're displaying it on a shelf or taking photographs with it or whatever, And yet they've still got the decals all over, hydronics, panel removal, the Cobra symbol, all the bolts and rivets, little kind of aerodynamic things on the wings and all sorts, and the foot stands so that it holds up. And then as I bring it round here, you can see they've put a bit of red in behind the jet engines there, the propulsion engines here to give it even more flavour. And if you look really closely, there's like a yellowy orangey bit in. Can you see the paint applications on the plastic in there? There's like a yellow orangey bit in this central sections of each of the grills before the red comes in around the outside. I mean, that's an awesome bit of attention to detail and really brings it to life for me. I'm just so happy. So as you can see, Serpentor on his Air Chariot is an absolute beast. Looks incredible. There is no way anyone could walk past a shelf display with that in the center of it, surrounded by, Vipers and Cobra Guards and Crimson Guards and Cobra Commander and all that stuff, without going, oh my word, look at that. It is breathtaking. I'm very, very, very happy, in case you hadn't detected already, with the aesthetic quality of this figure. Just yeah, I mean, look at that. So imposing. Brilliant. Just an excellent centerpiece for a Cobra display. Once again, second with the Air Chariot in the mix, it's a second thumbs up in terms of the aesthetic impact and aesthetic qualities of this figure. It's absolutely outstanding. So there we go. There's aesthetic. Let's now move into talking a little bit about articulation and I suppose with the Air Chariot, no articulation functionality. I don't know, but we'll take a look at it in any case. Okay, then getting started with the head and above the shoulder articulation. Now, with the snake helmet, his serpent helmet, there is no head articulation at all, because this unit here is fitted into a clasp at the back, a little bracket that holds it in, and of course that means that you've got no option but to have him facing forward. However, G.I. Joe Classified design team's attention to detail strikes once again because they have a solution for that. Beneath the cape here, you can pop the helmet off by pulling it through like this. You can see you've got this little kind of clamp here and this little bracket in there. And then you can fit this separate headpiece on. And you can fit this separate... what's that bit of a snake called? I'm not much of a biologist. I wonder. I'm going to look that up. One sec. Okay, well, so I went to Google and I tried to Google it, but then not knowing what it's actually kind of called in the first place means that you can't really Google it because I couldn't describe it. And then I was writing really weird, long Google searches. I didn't get to the bottom of what this section of a Cobra is called. So, if you're out there and you know, dear beloved audience member, please do drop into the comments and let me know. I would love to know what this section of a Cobra is called. But anyway, let's spin it back round. So with this section now installed at the back and this section installed on the helmet and they're no longer joined, we're given the full range of usual G.I. Joe Classified articulation. So you can look up to a degree. Obviously, this still gets in the way somewhat, but we can now look down. We can look left and right. We can tilt. We can do all the good stuff that we're used to doing with the heads on our figures. So well done, G.I. Joe Classified. Now, what I will say is aesthetically, that then starts to look a little bit janky. So if you've got him sort of looking down and at an angle like this, the back section obviously isn't proportionately flush. So it looks a bit odd at times. So I will admit that even when I've got him with his separate headpiece on, I tend to put him facing forward because I like the symmetry. You know, horses for courses. We need the articulation for good displays and good photos and what have you. So it's there. But yeah, you can see we've got all the movement in the head and neck now by changing those pieces out. Moving further down, it's the standard G.I. Joe Classified stuff. There's a butterfly joint here in the shoulder. Then we've got a hinge that brings the shoulder up so we can do the T. Swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. A lovely double elbow that gets you up to there. You can see that the size of his bicep gets in the way a little bit. Then we've got the usual swivel in the wrist, and both hands, left and right, have got a hinge back and forward like so. Now, one aspect that may be unique to just my Serpentor, I don't know, again, please do let me know in the comments down below if you've experienced the same. My articulation in the arms, in fact, overall in the figure, as you'll see in a moment, is super loose. You can see very loosey-goosey in terms of the articulation there. Very loosey-goosey. It's like really loose, and sometimes like when I've put him in positions, I can see it sort of sliding and dropping, which is very, very strange. Although even though the limbs are very loosey-goosey, I'm about to talk about the torso, you'll see that I've got some issues there too. But yeah, so I don't know if that's unique to mine. I was talking to a fellow collector the other day who said his was the exact opposite. His were too tight. There's obviously a fine balance there that you're looking for in terms of articulation between the resistance and the tightness and the looseness of the figure, but mine's, yeah, very, very loose. It's not so much of a problem up here in the arms and shoulders, but when I get down to the legs, you'll see it can cause some issues with his ability to stand independently. But anyway, I'll get to the legs. Let's move into the torso now. So we've got the torso cut there, the swivel on the top of the torso, and then the swivel in the waist. Unlike the loosey-goosiness of the limbs, mine is super stiff there. Super stiff. I'm not getting a great range of motion at all in that top half, and the waist swivel is really tricky too. You'll also notice, I don't know if you saw this before, anyone's caught this yet, but I've got a slight misalignment here in the waist. I don't know if that's what's affecting the waist swivel, but there's a slight misalignment which is causing this weird little gap, which has been bugging me a great deal. But I'm afraid to contact the retailer in case they don't have a replacement available. But yeah, not happy about that. So very restricted in terms of movement in the torso. So even though the articulation is there and I've got loosey-goosey limbs, I've got a very tight situation with the chest swivel and the waist swivel. Then into the legs, it's the standard G.I. Joe classified drop-down joint, which gives you a great range of motion with regards to doing, your ballet moves. Decent kick forward. All right back. Obviously the arse sculpt gets in the way there. We've got swivel here at the top of the thigh. A double knee that gets up to there. Swivel at the top of the boot. And then we've got the hinge and rocker on the feet as well. And you can probably see, again, really super loose on my figure. Really super loose. Very loosey-goosey indeed, which is affecting his ability to stand. In fact, this ankle in particular, the hinge there is super loose. Not so bad on that side, but super loose on this side. And I'm finding the absence of resistance in that there sometimes a bit difficult when I'm trying to stand him in particular positions. I was taking some photos the other day and he just kind of kept slipping back like that, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. So articulation-wise then, in theory, it's a thumbs up because I like the G.I. Joe classified articulation a great deal, and he's got all the kind of key points that we've come to know and love with the range. However, I can't give it a full thumbs up in terms of articulation because my experience with this particular figure that I have, and the looseness of the limbs and the fact that the waist swivel has got this like little gap and doesn't actually give the range of motion that I would expect, I've actually, sorry to report, got to give my Serpentor a thumbs down. But I'd be very interested to know how others' experience is with the articulation, whether you've had the same level of looseness or whether yours is tighter. Torso in particular, what's your range of motion like in the torso? Let me know. I'd love to get a heads up about whether mine's a bit duff or not. So there we go, there's Serpentor. Now let's have a look at the Air Chariot. Loads of articulation functionality in the Chariot as well, just to give it a little bit more variety and some man-child play opportunities, some play experiences. Let's start by looking at the Chariot's head. You can see here that we've got teeth that can be concealed or pulled down. It's a bit fidgety. I had to get like a thin set of tweezers to pull the teeth out, but you can do, and it's not that much of a ball ache. Then we've got this little tongue machine gun thing sticking out there, but you can also flap that up to conceal it if you are so inclined, and then the mouth can open and close. One nice touch about it is that even when you've got the teeth down, you can close the mouth there as well. And I don't know, I feel like he looks a little bit cheeky. A bit cheeky when he's got his mouth closed and the teeth down. Do you agree? Bit of a cheeky snake there. Bit of a cheeky cobra with his teeth out. But there we go. It's possible to do. And the big old cannons here, these swivel in the peg spot that they're in, but they're also removable with the peg. We've got a handle at the back here and a handle at the front, so that if you want your characters to hold the gun and, might be great on a roadblock or something, those. But yeah, they are removable, so they can be used, but they also swivel in place like that. There's obviously a limit to the range of motion because of things getting in the way, but it's possible to do. Moving around to the back, there's no movement in the steering column. That might have been nice to have a little bit of swivel here in the steering column and handlebars, but there's not. That just sits locked in place there like that. It's also the same with these rudders, flaps. There's no movement in these. These are static, stay in position. And the last little bit of kind of functionality is that the little fan hover thing spins like so, using this little knob at the top. So yeah, the functionality, the articulated elements on the Air Chariot are limited, but they're fun. The mouth, the stuff with the head's nice, and the fact that you can remove the big gun cannons and what have you, but I might have liked just a wee touch more. I don't really know what, though, You know what I mean? You know when you feel like you wanted something, but you don't know what it is that you actually wanted? I think I'm just being a bit, perhaps overcritical and a bit of a greedy man-child action figure collector there, wanting a bit more in it, but maybe something else would have just brought it to life. Of course, the price tag element, I suppose, comes into play there, and production costs and what have you. But yeah, it's there's not a lot going on. But I mean, it's a big floaty air chariot that he stands on. I mean, how much stuff can you do with that, I suppose, at the end of the day? But largely speaking, even though it's limited, I'm happy with it. Okay, so there we go. There's the air chariot looked at. Let's now start taking a closer look at the added value and accessories with the figure. First up, we've got the claw gauntlet here. There's two, actually. One that's on the figure, out of packet, and then this additional one here. The one that's on the figure, out of packet, is with the claws retracted, whereas this one here is with the claws extended. These look like nasty pieces of work, but we've got nice metallic paint job on the blades there to give them a metallic sheen. And then some sculpted detail in the plastic moulding of the actual kind of clasp that fits it to his gauntlet. That's very straightforward to change. There's a little chamber just here and a matching kind of locking mechanism. And you can add the new one then going into that chamber and lock it in place like so. Then we've got his big serpent staff here. This is a lovely piece of work in the same kind of gold tones as the scaled armor pieces on his arms and legs. Nice sculpted detail in the serpent here at the head of the staff. All the scales and teeth and everything. That's a nice piece of work. Then it's just a plain kind of rod all the way down the staff, and then you've got this nice little ornate section at the bottom here with a little painted red gem at the bottom. It might have benefited from maybe a couple of gems in the eyes on the snake or something, I don't know, or a bit more going on here where the snake section meets the main body of the staff, but you know, is what it is. It's a lovely piece of work, and I must admit, in my posing and in a few of the photographs I was taking the other day, this was one of the kind of main accessory features that I used over and over again because I love it. It is a wee bit tricky to get into his hands. There's a bit of finger bending that you have to do and some manipulation to get it around the thumb. Because of this little bit at the bottom, you can't quite just sort of slide it in from the top like you might do with other kind of staffy things like so. So like, you know, your swords on Storm Shadow where you just sort of slide them in. And I'm not the biggest fan of having to do that. I'm always very skeptical of when I have to bend the thumbs back. I don't like it in case I get a bit of kind of plastic tension marks, you know what I mean, from stretching. But once it's in, it's a good fit, it's a good grip, although why they put trigger fingers on him when he's got no guns, I don't know. Did Serpentor ever hold a gun? Ever? Once? Then we have his sword. Again, nice piece of work. Lovely bit of sculpting on the hilt and the handle here. Snakes everywhere. Serpent motifs everywhere. Nice moulded, plastic moulded snake here in the hilt. And then we've got the little gem again at the bottom to give it a bit of flavour. Painted in red. Nice, neat paint application. Then the blade of the sword as well. It's sculpted. It's got these kind of interesting shape and design to it, which makes it very eye-catching. And the lovely metallic paint job to make it, you know, look like a blade. So fine, good, solid fit, easy to put in and out of his hands, the sword, no issues there. But I'll tell you one thing that I came across. This might be very, again, a kind of unique perspective from me, but the choice to have a forward and back hinge rather than an up and down hinge on this hand has been annoying me a little bit, because I had him in his chariot and I was doing a kind of photo where I wanted the sword sort of up in the air and pointing a bit forward, like a sort of, you know, charge kind of thing, and I couldn't get it to angle just the way I wanted. You know, with the arm straight, it just looks like he's holding it up like, I have the power. And no, yeah, I don't know. I'd have liked an up and down rather than in and out on one of the hands, but, you know, again, can't have it all, I suppose. Hey, I'll tell you what, folks, just before I talk about this snake staff here, did you notice his legs, the looseness in the groin joint sliding apart as I was holding him then? Just, yeah, the articulation looseness, man. It's getting in the way of my enjoyment of the figure. But here we go. Anyway, we've got this snake piece here, the snake kind of spear. This is obviously a reference to the G.I. Joe, the movie scene where Serpentor removes one of his snakes from his shoulders, kind of locks it stiff like this, and then plows it into Duke's body. And of course, the controversial death Duke at that point. This is a lovely sculpted piece. Now got the teeth, got the snake head, got the scales, the texture within it. It's a nice piece and a lovely bit of character for some posing, and a nice little nod to the original movie. Yeah, liking that. And then finally, while we're on the subject of snakes, look at this. He's got a little pet cobra that hangs out with him. This is a nice sculpt, nice piece of work. I've been enjoying this a great deal, probably more than I should have been doing. But yeah, he's got painted in the mouth, painted eyes. We've got a paint job across the front here, so the belly of the beast is different to the back. All the scale texture in here is an interesting shape. It sits flat nicely on a shelf display like so, which is really, really cool. It's not flexible though, so it's in that position, and that's the position that you have it in. No debate, no discussion. But it's a nice touch, yeah, and it's very well sculpted. They do animals quite well, don't they, over at G.I. Joe Classified? So well done on that one, Hasbro. But yeah, nice element, nice for displays, especially if you're using him in amongst a load of figures without the Air Chariot. It's an added bit of flavour. I had it sitting between his legs at one point, sort of slithering out between through the gap in his legs, about to bite one of his victims. So yeah, nice touch. So, Serpentor's accessory selection is solid, it's sound, it's definitely in line with the type of gear that you would expect someone like Serpentor to be carrying. Don't forget as well, the replacement headpieces in order to give the added articulation that I showed you a bit earlier on there in the mix. So as far as adding to the value of the purchase, these definitely add to the value. If you're into your displays, if you're into your photography, if you want to build a diorama around Serpentor, you've got a selection of bits and bobs that will allow you to do so. I tell you what, I am surprised I've not seen more photos knocking around of Instagram using this with people's Duke figures. I don't own a Duke, otherwise I'd have done so already myself, but something in line with the movie. Perhaps when Falcon comes around, when he finally gets released, we'll start seeing some dioramas based on that, filling up the photo groups. But yeah, I'm surprised I've not seen more of that. But yeah, it's a solid selection. Of course, let's not forget, we've got a whole massive Air Chariot in the mix there as well that we've already taken a look at. So as far as adding value, yeah, I'm giving it a thumbs up. I'm happy with it. Yeah, it's a good selection of gear that comes with Serpentor to add to your storytelling and to add to your playtime. Figure comparison time now, folks. I've started off with Cobra Commander. That just seemed like a really obvious shelf pairing to me, Serpentor and Cobra Commander. You can definitely see the size, height, physique difference between the two, which is also somewhat reflective of their character, their personality, and what they represent for the leadership of Cobra as well. I love that, but that's obviously not down to G.I. Joe Classified. That's just good quality character design from back in the 80s. And now here's Serpentor next to a battle android trooper, ready to command his forces of nasty android robots into some combat with the G.I. Joes. Now here's Serpentor next to my bazooka figure, another recent addition to the collection, but also one of my bulkier physiqued figures. So again, you can see the difference in height and body shape between the two. Staying on the theme of other larger, bulkier characters, here's my Sergeant Slaughter in my Drill Sergeant pose. I've basically had him in for weeks now, but you're probably bored of seeing him like this. But yeah, he's even taller, even broader, even more muscular than the Sergeant himself there, which is interesting. And finally, just because it's hanging around and it's another recent new addition to the collection, got my black face-plated Crimson Guard there as well, which you can see quite a significant body shape and size difference there. Okay, final thoughts time then, folks. He's too big on the Air Chariot to get my little rotating disc in there, so you're going to have to do just a static shot of him, I'm afraid, for this section. But there's not much else left to say. I've waffled on a great deal. As far as the look and the impact on the eyeballs that this character has, I'm very, very happy to have Serpentor and his Air Chariot in my collection. Just a big old assault on the eyeballs of gold and green and menace and snakes. It's just got it all going on, and there's no denying he's an iconic G.I. Joe character. There's just no two ways about it. He looks tremendous in the display, and I'm very, very happy on that level. I'm just finding my experience has been marred by the loose articulation. The ankle ankles in particular have really been getting in the way of me enjoying this figure to the full extent I think that I would have done had he been a little bit tighter, a bit easier to stand up, a bit more kind of like that level of resistance just right for the type of posing that I've been trying to do with him. Now, the vast majority of the times, I'm probably just going to have him on the chariot like this, center display anyway, but I don't know, the ankles have been a real problem. He's been toppling forward with those loose ankles. I've been very disappointed, and I think I'm obviously going to try and do a bit of remedial activity on that to try and sort the problem out, but yeah, out the packet, I was very, very sad when I started getting straight into my playtime, posing him up and messing around with him. Without the Air Chariot, I was just playing with the figure and he just kept toppling and he's all loose, and the fact I can't swivel him very well and he's got that little gap in the waist swivel is just, it's just really marred my overall experience. So yeah, great, looks great, absolutely fills a position in the G.I. Joe Classified roster that was much needed. Very happy on that respect. I just hope that my articulation issues are unique to mine and that everyone else has had a better time on that front. So there we go. Okay, ladies and gents, well, thank you very much for coming and hanging out on my channel. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with me here while I've been going over my Serpentor unboxing and review. If you like this sort of thing, I do tons of this type of video and activity here on the channel, so please do take a moment to hit the subscribe button, and if you found this useful, then drop a like, thumbs up, and do all that good YouTube-y kind of thing. I'm so appreciative of your time. Otherwise, I hope you have a tremendous day, and I look forward to catching you around these parts for another action figure review, maybe some comic book content, maybe some stuff about trading cards, perhaps one of the games I'm playing. Games and collectibles, that's what MoDXtra is all about. And if you're an enormous adult child like me who just loves filling their house with plastic crap and meeples and trading cards, then this is the channel for you. Okay, so I'll see you later, folks. Bye now.